On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 left Kuala Lumpur International Airport. It was going to Beijing. There were 239 people on board. For a while, everything was normal. Then shortly after takeoff, someone turned off the transponder. The plane went off the radar. It flew over the ocean for hours before crashing. We don't know where the wreckage is or why the plane crashed. This is the story of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. It was March 8, 2014. A normal day in early 2014. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 was getting ready to take off. It would fly from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia to Beijing in China. There were 239 people on board, 227 passengers, and 12 crew members. They were from 14 different countries. The pilot in command was 53-year-old Zarkis Lemon. He had flown for Malaysia Airlines for 33 years. His first officer was 27-year-old Farik Abdul Hamid. Everyone was excited. Many passengers were going to see family or go on vacation. The plane got clearance to take off. At 12:41 a.m., it lifted off the runway and headed toward Beijing. For about half an hour, everything was normal. Then at 1:19 a.m., the pilots talked to air traffic control. These were their last words. The co-pilot said, "Good night, Malaysian 370." Then they went off the radar. Air traffic control tried talking to the plane, but there was no answer. At 1:21 a.m., they declared the plane missing. Soon, many countries joined the search, including Australia, China, Japan, India, the United Kingdom, the United States, and Canada. Where did the plane go? At first, military radar showed that the plane changed course. It flew west across the Malay Peninsula, but then it turned back, flew over the South China Sea. What did the pilots do? Were they trying to land again? Well, they didn't. At 1:34 a.m., the plane reached its highest altitude. It climbed to 47,800 feet. It's higher than most commercial planes go. Then it started to lose altitude. By 2:21 a.m., it was at 10,000 feet. It kept losing altitude. It was like the plane was gliding. That's how it stayed in the air for so long. Finally, at 2:44 a.m., it went off the radar. Its last known position was over the Indian Ocean. We don't know exactly where. Soon, ships and planes were looking everywhere. They wanted to find the plane, but they didn't know where to look. This made the search really hard. Every day, helicopters and planes flew over the water. They looked and looked, but they couldn't find anything. Days turned into weeks. Still, no one knew what happened to the plane. Did it crash? If so, where is the wreckage? Or was there another explanation? As days turned into weeks, people started to ask questions. How could a big plane just disappear? Was there a mechanical problem? Did the pilots do something wrong? Or was someone else to blame? Investigators were working hard to find answers. They talked to people who saw the plane, but no one saw anything unusual. They checked the weather, but there were no storms near the plane's route. They also talked to other pilots. They wanted to know if there were any mechanical problems, but they didn't find anything. Then investigators checked the plane's history. They wanted to know if there were any accidents before. They also wanted to know if the pilots had a history of problems. The plane was fine. It had been through regular maintenance checks, and the pilots were experienced. So why did the plane disappear? The truth is they don't know. Some people believed terrorists did it. Maybe they blew up the plane, but no group said they were responsible. Also, no one found any bombs. Other people thought the pilots did it. Maybe they planned to crash the plane. Well, that sounds crazy. But the investigators found something strange. The captain of the plane had a flight simulator. It was at his home, and he used it to practice takeoffs and landings. But recently, he'd been practicing something else. He practiced flying a plane off course. He also practiced flying over the Indian Ocean. It's far away from Malaysia. Why would he do that? The investigators don't know. But it makes you wonder, what was the captain thinking? There were other strange things. Before the flight, the pilots made changes to the plane's computer. They changed its clock. Also, they turned off the system that gives the plane its location. They didn't need those features. They didn't want to know where they were going. Or maybe they didn't. There were many questions, but no one had any answers. The world waited for more information, but but there was nothing to find. The plane was nowhere to be seen. Had it really crashed? Well, no one knew. It felt like the plane had vanished into thin air. 2 years passed. The world had moved on, but the families of the passengers weren't ready to give up. They kept asking the Malaysian government for answers. Finally, something interesting happened. In July 2015, a man found something on the beach. It was a piece of metal. At first, he didn't think much of it, but then he noticed something else. The metal piece had writing on it. It said, Malaysia Airlines. Soon, experts from Malaysia came to the island. They confirmed it. The piece of metal was from the plane. They called it a flaperon. It's part of the plane's wing. So the plane had crashed. But where was the wreckage? Well, no one knew. The piece of metal was found on an island called Reunion. It's in the Indian Ocean. But the plane probably crashed further away. Maybe it broke apart in the air. Maybe it fell into the ocean. Investigators searched the ocean floor. They wanted to find the black boxes, but they didn't have much luck. The search was hard because the Indian Ocean is so big. It's also very deep. Well, the searchers didn't find the whole plane, but they found more pieces. In late 2015, a fisherman found something floating in the water. He pulled it onto his boat. It was a big piece of the plane's side. Again, it had the airline's name on it. Later, a satellite image showed another piece of the plane. It was on a beach. It was the same color as the rest of the planes. They had washed up on islands and beaches. They confirmed it. This was the plane. But where was the rest of it? In the past few years, a few more pieces were found. They were on beaches and islands. They confirmed it. All these pieces were from MH370. But where's the plane? Well, no one knows. It's possible that the plane is broken. It's possible that it's in the ocean, but it's very deep down. Only 5% of the ocean has been explored. Most of it is deep and hard to reach, so maybe we'll never find the plane. The search has been hard. It's also been expensive. Over the years, many groups have spent a lot of money looking for the plane. In 2017, they spent $50 million. In 2018, they spent $36 million. In total, they spent more than $150 million. It's a lot of money. That's why in January 2018, the government stopped looking. It was too expensive. But some people aren't giving up. They believe the plane is somewhere in the ocean. They just need to find it. In 2018, a private company started looking. It's called Ocean Infinity. The company says it can explore the ocean floor. It can even explore deep waters. So maybe they'll find the plane. While some people keep looking, others remember the people on board. Who were they? Well, they were more than just names on a list. They were fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters. They were friends and co-workers. They were also citizens of many different countries. There were people from China, Malaysia, Ukraine, Indonesia, Australia, and New Zealand. There were people from Russia, France, Canada, the Netherlands, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Germany, Italy, Belgium, and the United States. Unfortunately, no one knows what happened to them. They just hope that one day they'll get some answers. Many countries have worked together on this case, including Australia, China, France, India, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States. They've worked hard to find the plane, but they haven't been successful. It's one of the biggest mysteries in the world. What happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370? Maybe someday we'll get an answer, but until then, the world will never forget.